just gone live on both Zoom and on YouTube. Meeting is being live streamed. We're going to wait a few minutes as we let attendees join. So please hang tight with us, Carl. It's great to see you. For those of you who've not met Carl Spataro, if you ever get the opportunity, you should. There are very few lawyers in the world who you can have a really deep and meaningful conversation about open source with. And Carl is that human. Who else do we see who's joined, Alexei, that we should make sure we're welcoming?
Yeah, I see people start joining. So, hi, Alexei. Hi, Amos. Another Amos. Not like that Amos, but that Amos. Hi, Anselo, Artyom, Boris, nice to see you again. Daniel, Dennis, another Dennis, Denny ZH. I recognize you. Dmitry, Iron, Ilkay, if I pronounce correctly, Malik, nice to see ClickHouse contributors on our event. Mark, Mikhail, Nikita, Rafael, Ricky, happy to see you again. Robert, I know you, Robert. Don't try to hide. Sergey, Todd, Tom, Vladimir, Yishai. Yeah, let's wait maybe 3 more minutes. Let people join. And you can watch our webinar in Zoom, and you can invite your friends to watch on YouTube. Before we will start, there is a chance maybe for 1 or 2 questions. Just arbitrary questions about ClickHouse. So if you have something unusual, something special to ask, don't hesitate, post your message to chat in Zoom or on YouTube. I don't see your questions, but we have about 2 minutes. Take a chance.
A question just came in from Vladimir, Alexei, which is, what are the backup and restore commands? Don't see them in docs, but do see them in tests.
It's a new feature, and this feature is named Backup and Restore. And I have announced this feature maybe 2 months ago or 3 months ago. It was in development for quite a long time, but now, I remember I announced it on our meetup in the list of my favorite features. And yes, it is my favorite feature because now you have embedded support for backups directly inside ClickHouse. You should use it.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we've reached a little bit of stasis in terms of number of people joining, and having had a preview of the content, I know that there's quite a lot to look at today. So I'll go ahead and kick off. First of all, I want to say thank you. Welcome. Whether you're watching this live now with us on Zoom, whether you're on YouTube, or whether you're catching the recording, we appreciate it. The value of a product is the effort that goes into it, the intelligence behind it, and then the community that adopts it. And each of these release webinars gives us a chance to interact with the community that adopts it. It is my pleasure to hand it off to Christoph and to Alexei to run us through the August release webinar.
Thanks, Tyler. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see a lot of the same people that we see. It's great that people stay loyal, that people show up. It's also good to see new people every time. Yeah, it's our usual August release in the middle of the summer. A lot of new features. I know one new feature. I'm very excited about it, but I'm sure there's many others as well. So I'll leave it to Alexei. throughout, feel free to ask questions. Just post in Zoom chat, Zoom Q&A. If you're on YouTube, post on YouTube chat. I'm looking at, I have all of them open on a giant screen, so I'll be able to see them. I'll collect all of them and then ask Alexei at the end. And with that, Alexei, take it away.
Chris, you said usual release webinar. No, this is not correct. Every release is unusual. I prepare every release, and please don't say usual anymore.
Fair enough. I'll take a note for next time.
Okay, let me share my screen. So this is release 22.08. I will try to spend maybe 40 minutes describing it, and maybe we will have time for questions. Maybe. So what is unique about this August release? It is the release with long-term support. It will be supported for 1 year until August next year. It contains a dozen of new features, a dozen of performance optimizations, and probably uncountable number of bug fixes and improvements. Let's see what are the new features, and let's start with something small but very useful. It is about self-extracting executable. How you can install ClickHouse if you need it. If you don't have it yet, you can use Debian packages. You can use RPM packages. You can use TGZ packages. And all these packages contain the same binary. And the most simple way to install ClickHouse, probably it is quite unsafe, but it is the most simple. Just run this command. You just load the website, clickhouse.com, with curl and pipe to sh. It is a common like anti-pattern if you don't read this script, but nevertheless, you can read the script, save it, and run it manually, and it will be safe. And it will download ClickHouse as a single binary package for almost any operating system that you have. It will install the latest and greatest ClickHouse version. It will contain debug info if you are a developer. And it is supported for Linux, macOS, FreeBSD, and even on Windows, if you use WSL too. It works on different architectures, x86-64, ARCH64 PowerPC. But the downside, the size of this single binary package was 2 gigabytes. It is quite heavy to download. Actually, I don't mind. I will be happy to download ClickHouse, even if it will be 10 gigabytes. But now it is much better. Now it is just 400 megabytes and something. It is compressed, but it is still a binary. It does not require a decompressor. It will decompress itself on the first run. It will take about just 5 seconds, so not too much. And it will save you traffic. Yeah, I hope it will be useful. And I always install ClickHouse this way. I don't care about packages. What else? About date and time. This feature is contributed by Roman Vasin, external ClickHouse contributor. It is about supported time range for date time 64 and date 32 data types. These data types were already extended, while date time data type has support only from year 1970, from the start of Unix epoch. But date times 64 had support from 1925 up to 23rd century. But some people told me that it is not enough. It is not enough because these people said they cannot store the birth date of their grandfather in ClickHouse. And this is sad to hear. And yes, many people have grandfather from earlier than 1925. So now it is extended. And it supports dates from all 20th century, from year 1990 up to the end of 23rd century. There is one interesting complication because some countries have changed their calendar during these years. Some countries changed from Julian to Gregorian calendar. Some countries, by the way, still use their own calendar, like in Thailand. But for calculations, it is often enough to just use Gregorian calendar. And there is proleptic Gregorian calendar that is equivalent if you take Gregorian calendar and just continue it backwards in time. It should be enough if you want to just store some dates, and for some calculations, maybe you will have to apply some differences if you calculate the number of dates. But for many calculations, it is enough. So now we have this support. Maybe it will be extended even more to the past or even more to the future. If you are happy with this improvement, please post your comments in YouTube or in Zoom. But I will be even more interested if you will need even more extended range. And if you do, please post some motivation. Why do you need even more extended range? Maybe you need it for some astronomical calculations. Maybe you need it for some financial calculations if you have some financial derivative products that will expire past 23rd century. It sounds very unlikely for me, but why not? And if we will collect enough mentions, we will simply implement these features. Probably not we, probably our dear contributor, Roman Vasin, will have motivation to do it. So thank you for this feature. Let's continue. Query parameters in interactive mode. I need to demonstrate it in terminal. So let me switch to the terminal. I hope you see it. And I will just copy paste some commands. Yeah, I will copy paste or just improvise. First, let me start the server. I have ClickHouse server installed on my machine. Now I run it. Probably you see the nice colors from the logs, not the logs itself. It is all right. Okay, here is the client. The server works. And ClickHouse has support for query parameters like this. Query parameters are typed. I can write a type like this. So here I define query parameter X of type U-insert2. In other databases, I usually do like this. But this is far worse than in ClickHouse because it is untyped and we already have it for conditional operator. So we cannot use a question mark for parameters, but we can use this syntax. And if I try to use, it will say that query parameter is not set. How can I set the query parameter? Very easily. Like this. Now I can run this query. I also can do it in HTTP interface. It is also very straightforward. Just put these parameters in query string. Yeah, it works. If I do this in the client, it is interpreted by the client itself. But query is sent to the server with already substituted parameters. And if I try to run this query with some new parameters interactively, it will tell that parameters are not set. And until version 22.08, there was no way to set parameters interactively. But now it is also very simple. Just write it like this. And as a bonus, parameters are supported in the native protocol. So they are available for every language driver, like Go driver, Python driver, PHP, .NET. Every driver can use this feature with the native protocol. Parameters can have some complex type, like this. It cannot parse array from the string 1, 2, 3. So I will have to set it to something like this. Actually, I have to wrap the value into string literal, and it will work. Maybe we will allow it without string literal, because why not? Okay, pretty easy, pretty neat. What else? A setting named exact rows before limit. What does it do? You may guess that it will force displaying exact rows before limit. Let me check it how it actually works. I will go and try again. Run the client and copy paste some comments. Here I will do aggregation query. I will aggregate by some key with 100,000 of keys. It will be simple aggregation with the count function, multi-threaded with the system numbers, MT. From 10 million numbers, it should be fast. And I will take first 10 records of the result. And I will use JSON compact format to display the additional info. Yes, it is fast. Here I have some additional info like statistics that it took just 100 milliseconds. And I see this result description that rows before limit at least is 391. What does it mean and why it is 391? Because I should get 100,000 of records. Yes, I have limited it to just 10. But I also want to display and to know the total number of records in the result. Maybe I need it to display the number of pages. And the name of this field makes a hint. Rows before limit, at least. So it is very honest. It is as precise as it can be. I will get at least 391 records. But maybe I want it to be more precise. The solution is very simple. No, it is named exact rows before limit. So I just enable this setting. And here is the difference. It will display the exact value. The question is why? Why all this complication needed? And it is needed because ClickHouse server and ClickHouse client are processing the result in streaming fashion. You can query arbitrary number of data, terabytes. Maybe you can run one select query that will fetch petabyte of data. It does not require reading all these petabytes if you have a limit. And if you have a limit, query can be prematurely stopped. But you will not know how many records there are. If you enable this setting, rows before exact rows before limit, it will just force reading the results to the end, but it will ignore everything after the limit. So it will be less efficient. Here you see not 100, but 128 milliseconds, slightly slower, but this value will be precise. This was contributed by external contributor Kevin Wan. Now something even more interesting for performance, for parallel processing. Distributed insert select from S3 cluster. Sounds quite complicated. Let me explain. Here is S3 table function. It allows to read data from S3. And it allows to read multiple files with wildcards. If I have multiple files, they will be read in parallel. So this query will be faster. It will use multiple threads on my server. By the way, how fast it can process? How fast it can process? Let me check. I will open another terminal. And try to run it. Probably it will also read a huge. I have to remove this line break. Probably it will also read a huge number of data. Let me add this. $300 million rows per second, 14 gigabytes per second. Is it fast? Yes, it is. So maybe it is as fast as it can be. Actually, I can make it even faster if I have a cluster. If I have a cluster of multiple nodes, I can use S3 cluster table function. I just specify the cluster name, and this reading of these files will be spread to the cluster nodes. They will process everything in parallel. And what will happen if I will do insert select from S3 cluster? In previous versions, reading was parallelized, but insertion did not. It was reading data in parallel on multiple nodes, but fetch this data to the single node before insertion. In the new version 22.08, if the table is replicated or distributed across the same cluster, the insert will be also parallelized. So it will insert on every node of the cluster. So it will be not just 14 gigabytes per second, but I will not even check how fast it can be, because maybe something will explode. I don't want explosions. So yes, it is fast. And here is quite a small feature for people who do operations. For you may say admin if you are old-fashioned. You may say DevOps if you are also old-fashioned, but not so. Or you can say site reliability engineer if you are fashionable. So this is all for you, for site reliability engineers and admins and DevOps. Now you can simply switch the server logs to use JSON format. And this feature has been contributed by Malik Hassan. So thank you for this feature. Let me try to check. Here I have my server. Wow. My terminal looks like I have to restart my terminal. It will take 30 seconds. And run ClickHouse server again. I don't know why it has freezed. Maybe I have too many colors in the terminal and it has gone mad. 30 seconds.
I think you have too many tabs open in your browser. I think that's what's happening.
It is just my browser. And terminal and ClickHouse should work absolutely fine. Okay. Now I will run ClickHouse server again. And it shows that another instance already running. I will do very simple thing that you should not do on production unless you are very experienced DevOps. Only very experienced DevOps can do this. I can. Now it runs, it prints the logs, and whenever I run ClickHouse server, I always want to just do nothing and stare at these logs because they are so beautiful. You know, the colors are amazingly beautiful. And there is a reason for this, very special reason, because I have made these colors, this so beautiful, yeah. It is just amazingly nice. But you may want worse. Let me check the configuration file. Here it is. I use this orthodoxal file manager You don't have to use the same file manager unless you are very experienced admin. So there is an option. It is very simple, uncomment, and your logs will be boring. Like this. JSON on every record. It is difficult to read, but still you may want it. Actually, I want something in between, and I will make this magic command. I will pipe standard error to standard output, grab on the JSONs, and pipe to JQ to colorize. Yeah, now it is slightly better. And you see there are some bonus fields like source file and source line. These bonus fields are not present in the original log. And the date time is represented by Unix timestamp. So it should be machine readable. What you can do with these logs, you can use the file log engine to subscribe to these logs and to send these logs back to ClickHouse. Because where else to send the logs? Okay, let's stop this and switch back to my favorite colorized logs. Another new feature, also by external contributor, Smita Kulkarni. It is a new syntax. Select into out file and std out. So if you run ClickHouse client, you can just save the result to a file. You can just display it as is. But with select into out file and std out, guess what? What it will do? I need to check. I always check the new features before the release. Because, you know, maybe there will be last hour changes, or maybe it does not work, or maybe something else. Let me copy paste some queries. So here is the result with the top search phrases from obfuscated dataset. Let me save it to a file. Here it is. Yeah, it works. But what if I want to save it into a file and also display in the client? The file already exists. It does not allow to overwrite. And now it works. It just saving and displaying at the same time. Pretty good. Yeah, I can specify any format like this. No, I should specify it in different order. Maybe it is not easy to remember, but you have this message and it is easy to correct. Here it is. Yeah, so the new feature works. Perfect. And it will be in the new release today. What else we can do similarly? What about insert select query? What if I run insert into table select something? It will just do select and insert, and then I have to check what it has inserted. Maybe we should consider a query like insert into table and select. Maybe. We don't have this feature yet. And it will insert and display the result, and you will be able to use it. I'm not sure, should we implement this feature? Or maybe we should implement insert returning. It will allow to insert any type of data, not necessarily select, and also process this data with some query. So please share your thoughts. Do you need this feature? And if you do, tell me, please, why do you need this feature? If you don't provide enough motivation, it will be not enough motivating for me. I will not spend a minute of my time implementing this feature. So please do it responsibly. Okay. What else do we have? And this is probably the flagship feature of the new release. The support for delete query. Until recently, there were no delete query in ClickHouse. And 4 years ago, there were no even any way to delete data. But 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I don't remember, we have added it. Not like delete query, but like alter table delete. And it has been made specifically this way, because this query is very heavy. It is running by basically rewriting the data and deleting the records. It works fine. You can clean up your data. It takes some time. I have tested on a table with 100 million records, pretty small table, but it took 200 seconds, 3 and something minutes. And by default, this query is asynchronously. You can turn it synchronous with this setting, mutation sync, with value 1 to be synchronous on one replica, or with value 2 to be synchronous on every replica. Now there is another query, just delete, not alter delete, but just delete. And it represents lightweight deletes. Let's check how lightweight these deletes are. So if it was 200 seconds, how many seconds it will take? I will give you 5 seconds. Please post your guess. What do you think? How long lightweight delete will take to delete these records from the table? And if you will be as close to the correct answer as possible, I will give you a t-shirt. This t-shirt, I will send it to you. Maybe I will take a t-shirt of different size, but it will be very similar to my t-shirt. And I like this t-shirt. Okay, Chris, do we have any guesses?
Yeah, we have a lot of guesses. We have everything from, I think, what was the smallest? We have 0.01 milliseconds all the way until 50 seconds and pretty much everything in between. So let's just see how long it takes and I'll find whoever's closest.
Perfect. Let's check the ground truth. First, I want to make the select query. And I will use a table with page views. Page views from the internet. And I will check how many page views were about MongoDB. 340. I don't like MongoDB. So I want to delete all these records. I don't want to see these records in my table. It will be not precisely 100 million, but slightly less, but not a problem. I just don't want to see MongoDB. First, I want to enable synchronous mode. By default, lightweight deletes are also asynchronous. The syntax is a SQL standard. With one exception. As far as I know, it will not allow me to do this query without where, just for safety, because how many times you did this query by mistake in MySQL and it helped you to wake up in the morning. It should not work in ClickHouse. But I will not try. I will try later. Maybe we forgot to enable this protection by default. Okay, I will run this query. And to enable it, I have to enable experimental flag because this feature is still experimental in the version 22.08. Okay, now I should be able to run it. Okay, 0.1 milliseconds, you lose. 1 second, you also lose. 6 seconds. Okay, Chris, how many correct answers do we have?
Well, I don't think I saw anybody do 6 seconds. We're 5 seconds. That's, I think, 5 seconds is probably the closest, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and could you please read the name of this wonderful person?
Yes, 5 seconds was from Dennis Gee.
Dennis
G-E-E, yeah, Dennis Gee.
Okay, so Dennis, you will get our t-shirt. We will need to contact you to check the address. Okay, so 6 seconds. Yes, it is much faster than 200 seconds, but I want better. I have already asked the developer of this feature, why 6 seconds? I want 6 milliseconds. Could you please make it work in 6 milliseconds for the next release? I will not tell you what my colleague has answered me. Probably it's not appropriate for this webinar, but we will see. The next release will be in 1 month. Okay, what else do we have? This is quite complicated, but I will try to do my best to explain. Compatibility of aggregate function states. So there are many aggregate functions in ClickHouse. And also you can get the intermediate state of the aggregate function. whenever you have aggregate function, say average, you can obtain the result, but also you can type avg state. And if you add a suffix state to your aggregate function, it will return something unusual. It will return a value of a special data type. And this data type is named aggregate function. And these values are first-class citizens that you can store in your tables, and you can sum these values and even multiply by constant. And these values representing some like incomplete calculation. You just freeze the calculation of your aggregate function to be continued later. And later you can finalize or you can merge these states. For the average aggregate function, it is absolutely uninteresting. You can do it manually by storing the count and the sum. And for some aggregate functions, like unique, it is much more useful because you don't know what is the state of the calculation of this function. Okay, so we have this interesting feature, first-class aggregation states inside ClickHouse, and they are used for materialized views and projections. With materialized views, you can do incremental continuous aggregation. You may read some blog posts from other database vendors about, we have implemented continuous aggregations. Look at us, how nice we are. For ClickHouse, continuous aggregation is not a surprise. It is available from 2014, even before open source. And it can support any aggregate function, average, unique, quantile, anything. But there is one complication. Some aggregate functions are different and they have different types. But the type of intermediate state is actually compatible. Like you have average and average if. And no matter that you use this modifier, the state of calculation is the same. And the same for quantile and quantiles with different quantiles. They share the same state. And since version 22.08, you can take the state of average if and insert into a column of the state of the average aggregate function. And for quantiles. Okay, yeah, it was quite difficult to explain. I hope at least some people did get anything. And for everyone else, I hope you enjoyed my hand waving. Okay, what else? I want to demonstrate this feature, but I will use another feature that is quite interesting. It is named ClickFiddle, fiddle.clickhouse.com. It looks like this. It is a small website with a quite strange design. It is contributed by external contributor Igor Baluk. And we host this website. What it is? It looks like ClickHouse Playground, but it is not a ClickHouse Playground. Or you may say it is really bad ClickHouse Playground, but there is one advantage. It allows you to select almost every ClickHouse version. It goes back to, I don't know, it goes back to the beginning. Probably the oldest version will not work at all. But I can easily choose some pretty old version and run the query, and it will take maybe 20 seconds because it has to spin up a container of this ClickHouse version. But it works. The version 19.5 still available in the packages, in the Docker images, and it works. And the latest release available is 22.7. Actually, it should be 22.8, but it will be released today. And if I go back, yeah, I can check this this query. I will not copy paste it. You just see that when I try to insert something like count into count if state, it argues that the types are not compatible. In version 22.8, not anymore. Okay, what else? Guess what is it? What is it? I will give you a clue. It is small. It runs ClickHouse. And also, so Chris, do you have some answers in chat?
Somebody's saying Raspberry Pi.
No, it is not Raspberry Pi. It is very similar, but it is even more cool. It is pretty cool to have Raspberry Pi on your desk, but you are not cool anymore because your friends, all your friends have this.
We have some other ones now. Orange Pi, Risk.
No. Who said Risk?
Scott.
Yeah, Scott, you are absolutely right. This is RISC-V development board. It is not mine. It is from Alexander Razumov, ClickHouse contributor. And my question to Scott, is it fast? Chris, could you please translate the answer?
The answer is yes, lol.
Actually, it is not fast, but until you install ClickHouse. If you install ClickHouse to this machine, magically it becomes faster. Let's check how exactly. We have a hardware benchmark. It looks like this. I can switch lights, dark. For some reason, I prefer the dark scheme for this benchmark. And there is a huge number of machines, starting from 2-socket AMD EPIC with 128 cores and 256 threads and terabyte of memory. And if we select desktop, something that you can put on your desktop, you can check how it will compare RISC-V and Raspberry Pi 4, and also the most powerful desktop you can get, AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro. I have it on my desk. And how it will compare. So RISC-V is slower than Raspberry Pi. And it is at least 5 to 6 times slower. And if you compare to the most powerful desktop, it will be 175 times slower. And some queries it cannot run at all. And some queries are slower 400 times. And yeah, up to 400 times slower. Yeah, you can compare with any machine. There are interesting machines. You can compare cloud providers, AWS, GCP, but I suggest you to play on your own. Go to benchmark www.clickhouse.com and you will see the results. Okay, now we have 5 minutes for your questions. Thank you for listening. And let Chris help me reading your questions.
Will do. All right. Let's start with questions on maybe just on the new delete feature. We had a few questions on how it works. Is it physical deletion? Is it just markup is deleted? How is it actually implemented? Why is it lightweight?
It is implemented by deletion mask. It will create an invisible column in your table that will contain 1 byte for every record, and it will be compressed. So probably it will be not 1 byte per record, and most likely it will be less than 1 bit per record. And it will be used while reading. When we read the data, we will use a technique similarly to pre-wear, and we will quickly filter out the deleted records. And when we will do merge, we will also filter out these records, so the merged data will not have this delete mask. It still has to write this delete mask, and it still has to do it with the mechanism of mutations. So it has to hard link some files and create a new data part. It is, I will say, lightweighter. Can I use this word?
Yes, that's fine. Another question on it, since lightweight deletes are working through in this manner, will it be possible, will there be the ability to roll back deletes?
Currently, no. But if you occasionally did this, simply turn off ClickHouse server, go to the data directory, locate the data parts, find the most fresh data part that will contain these deletion records, and delete this data part physically on every replica. After you will do this, you will effectively roll back the deletion. It is not so easy, but it is possible. And by the way, it is possible up to 8 minutes after you did this mistake.
Okay, I'm curious now, why is it 8 minutes?
Very interesting question. So, ClickHouse is using merge tree. Merge tree contains data parts. Data parts are merged or mutated. When new data part is created, it can be created on top of previous data parts, and previous data parts are deleted, and they are deleted not instantly, but after 8 minutes. And the question remains: why 8 minutes? Why not 10 minutes? Why not 5 minutes? And the answer is this. Imagine if you did not turn on fsync, and imagine that you have only 1 replica. And in this case, your data is not durable. If you have 2 replicas in different regions, or 3 replicas, it is more durable. But if you have this misfortune to run ClickHouse without replication and without fsync, and suddenly you lost the power, and the recent written data to disk can be still in the dirty pages by the operating system. But the operating system tries to flush the dirty pages after some period. And this period is something less than 8 minutes. And for this reason, we use 8 minutes. And I don't remember why not 10 minutes.
All right, very, very interesting. Another question, what about updates? It would be possible to implement using this technique, so I guess delete plus insert.
Yeah, totally. It is just the next step to do.
That's great. Another question, do tombstone-based deletes mean that there's a potential for sensitive data to persist even after explicit deletions for like SOC 2 purposes?
Yes. And for this reason, you may want to use the old alter table delete. After 8 minutes, the old records will be gone.
And another question, is there a way to clean up the table after lightweight deletes, like optimize the table?
Yeah, easily optimize final, and that's it. Yes, delete plus optimize will help, but it will not help to delete faster. Chris, please read this question. I did not.
Yeah, so I was also curious. So the question is, delete plus optimize will not help to delete faster, I guess faster than alter table delete?
Yeah, it will not help. It will help to finally delete this data from disk. So it will clean up the sensitive data, but it will not help you to do it faster.
Okay. I guess I'm curious, what would be faster, alter table delete or delete and then optimize?
It will be alter table delete will be slightly faster, and slightly only by the time of lightweight delete.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last question, I think, on this. If you had to delete 99% of the rows, like in your example, is there some optimization to just drop parts, delete parts if all the rows are marked as deleted?
As far as I know, yes, there is such optimization. I'm not entirely sure. We should check it.
All right. Let's see. On the parameters, there was one question. If parameter values, so the new query parameters, if these parameter values are locked in the query log with the actual values.
As far as I recall, they are not logged. Maybe we can check right now if we have maybe 3 minutes. I like doing experiments.
Yeah,
so,
we have a few more questions, maybe. I mean,
let's continue answering.
All right. By the way, if you're concerned about what's in the query log, check the query log. It's always a good idea anyway. Let's see. Oh yeah, there was a question on out file. If there is a simple way to write to multiple out files, I guess, I don't know, different partitions to different out files, or just different parts of the data of the result set to different out files.
I want this feature, but currently we don't have it. We have similar feature to read multiple files on insert from the client, but we don't have the feature to partition the data to multiple files. There is even a design proposal what exactly how it will look, but it is not implemented yet.
Okay, perfect. But I think you can you do insert into file, like the file table function, and
yes,
partition by?
Yes. By the way, you are totally right. You can do it this way. You cannot do it by into out file, but select into file, yes. But there is one concern. Select into file will work on server side, and it will put files into the user files directory. You will have to download these files to the client.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We had a few general questions. One question from Ramazan about a feature request. Like, what would you think about being able to write select statements like from table select column, so the table first, so users can benefit from auto completion of columns. I guess, like, you know, the table then when you're writing the columns.
Yeah, very interesting feature. So to allow writing from table select something. It has been implemented by our friends in some friendly database technology. What I am slightly afraid, it does look weird. You type from table, select something, and people will think, is it a SQL database? I should not fear it in ClickHouse, right? Because it has so many extensions. So maybe we should consider it. Actually, I want better auto-completion in the client to make it context-aware, to make it predictive, maybe with some machine learning. What about applying language model? What is the most advanced language model of today? GPT something.
GPT-3, I think. I think version 3 is the current one. Yeah.
Can we use it in ClickHouse client? Probably not. If we do, ClickHouse client will download 100 gigabytes and require a GPU to run.
Indeed. There's one question I missed on one of the features. It's about S3 cluster. How do the parallel insert on multiple machines work?
So you have a table distributed across multiple machines, and you will just run insert select for some subset of the data on every node. So it will be run almost independently and in parallel. Very simple.
All right. And then we had a question about running ClickHouse on IBM Power, specifically PPC64LE architecture. Does it work? But at least there doesn't seem to be a tar file for it. It
works. You can download the latest version with curl pipe.sh. Check the script, read the script, and run it manually if you are concerned. It will download the version for PowerPC 64LE. I checked. It works. We even have a hardware performance result. It is not really convincing because it has been made on a small virtual machine. But you can take a large server, and I will be happy to see the results.
Okay, perfect. I think we're running out of time a little bit as well. So I think we'll leave it at this for now. Thank you everybody for unless you want to check the query log, Alexei.
Let me check the query log.
Let's do that.
So the query identifier is here. We will locate it in the logs. there are two records, one record for query start, another record for query finish. First, let's check. Oops, it is logged, so it is substituted, but it's because I have run it in the client. So interesting. I did not expect that parameters are substituted, but it is not bad. It is just how it works. And the question is how it should work. Should it represent the final query, or should it represent the parameterized query? And by the way, I also want to show you one simple trick. Let me show you. There is one interesting function named Normalize Query. And it works like this. It will replace, by the way, I will even do something like this. It just replacing some literals, some long names to some substitution. Okay. Now I think we are out of time. So thank you for listening and thank you for your questions. By the way, Malik has a hand raised. I don't know why. We don't allow asking questions live, but if you, yeah, probably by mistake. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening and see you the next time.